Japan. Ever in the crossroads between its past and its future, Japan struggles always to find a balance between tradition and modernity. One of the largest problems that Japan is facing today is an aging crisis. Japan has a very low mortality rate coupled with a very low fertility rate.
The result is more and more old people in Japan, and fewer young people. Japan's population is aging, and it is doing so rapidly. We set out to explore why. How do the Japanese view themselves? What lies behind these low birth and death rates? How is Japan responding to this dilemma? How can it respond? What lies ahead for Japan?
We sat down with Professor Vera Fennell of Lehigh University to get some answers.
Yes, they do. And it's interesting because the Japanese have been, periodically they think of themselves as leaders in Asia, leaders among the yellow peoples of Asia. And then there are other times when they think of themselves certainly as not being quite of Asia. And so many people believe that Japan has this very strange relationship with Asia. It sees itself sometimes as Asian, as a leader of sort of the rise of Asian nation states. Economically in the 70s and 80s that was true. But then also sees itself as part of the kind of global imperial class with the right to have colonies colonizing over other Asian nation states. So it's quite interesting movement back and forth to being of Asia and not of Asia.
Japan does indeed have a unique position within Asia. But what lies at the root of Japan's aging dilemma? What has caused this problem? We asked Lehigh University professor Kiri Lee what her thoughts were.
Basically, it's very expensive to live in Japan, and then the economy is not very good at this point, so you can't really expect a lot of raise in, your workplace or something like that. So I think they want to kind of make a sensible decision, which is not to have large family.
Japan's economics certainly play a part in birth and death rates. In fact, many view money matters as playing an essential role in the way all populations progress demographically.
Some people think of it as simply the price of economic success, right? As your GDP develops, as your economy rises, of course you're going to have lower birth rates. We see that, of course, one of the UN says that one of the chief determinants of female fertility, how many children a woman actually gives birth to, is based on her level of education. So as the economy rises, as more and more women become educated, the birth rate drops, and you see this globally. Another factor, of course, is declining mortality. That's a sign of economic success, isn't it? That fewer people are dying from things like childbirth or dying from, diseases which are now sort of treated as sort of chronic illnesses. So in some aspects, you could say that it's really the results of their own success.
Yeah.
Japan has had economic successes in the past, but it faces a real aging crisis today. If it does not take serious action soon, Japan may become an empty house. And there is evidence that Japan is getting serious about its graying population. Far from the only country to be going through a demographic shift, Japan has begun to look to other industrialized nations for solutions to the general problem of population aging.
The Japanese government sent some of the government officials to those countries to observe, learn how to take care of this particular issue. And then, I forget when, but about 5 years ago, we have a ministry to take care of, what was it, Shoshika Daijin or something like that, the ministry of taking care of low birth rate or something like that. And I think, with this new government, I think starting this fiscal year, every family with the kids will get some check.
The Japanese legislature, the Diet, actually 2 sessions or 3 sessions ago, actually started talking about whether or not to encourage immigration. So if they're thinking of our population is not going to grow rapid enough, we should encourage immigration. The Japanese are, certainly have a long history of not encouraging immigration, particularly for labor issues. But they were actually talking a couple of sessions ago about changing the laws, the immigration laws. So it looks like maybe the increase in fertility rates and increase in birth rates isn't going to happen soon enough.
What can Japan expect in the future? Strong in its sense of culture and identity, will Japan be able to adapt to change? Is Japan's demographic problem here to stay, or is this just a phase in Japan's larger history?
Well, what I heard, I mean, this is kind of a probably optimistic view, but the birth rate will kind of slowly, not very rapidly, but slowly kind of go up.
It would be interesting to see if they're willing to. I mean, if they're willing to consider allowing immigration, I would think that they would also be able to just consider what it means to be Japanese in terms of a kind of multi-ethnicity. But that's going to be a long way off. I don't know if that's going to happen in my lifetime.
While no one can say for sure what the future holds for the Japanese, what is certain is that Japan's problems must be met with speed and resolve. Whether Japan's birth rate will continue to fall, or in fact rise, cannot be determined. But if Japan can overcome itself and its rigid conceptions of identity, then perhaps Japan will continue to prosper and play a critical role in the Pacific Rim and in the world at large.